All right, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope everybody is doing fantastic. I am live a couple of minutes early for today's exciting segment with my special guest Sanjay Duggal. So we're going to be talking about AML, the anti money laundering industry. How do you build a career in this space? What opportunities exist within this space, right? Now, the reason why I wanted to bring Sanjay on this show, and by the way, in the meanwhile, folks, feel free to introduce yourself in the comments. Let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from, what city you represent. Feel free to let us know in the comments. All right, I'm going to bring my special guest out shortly. But the reason why I wanted to bring Sanjay on this show, folks, is because, AML, like, this is an industry I hear so many people talking about and asking me about. And, it's a very, 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 very much a very hot space, like, as far as I know. Now, I wanted to bring Sanjay on because I definitely wanted to learn more about this industry myself as well. And I wanted to have someone who's in this space, who is an expert, join us and share his tips and advice for people that are looking to grow themselves in this industry. All right, so I'm just gonna check if everything's clear on my end. Looks like I am live. Looks like we have about 20 people joining in right now. Awesome. Don't be shy. Feel free to introduce yourself in the comments. We have some comments coming through here. We got Fela Dada all the way from Mississauga. Saga is in the house. Thanks for tuning in, my friend Fela. Good to see you here. We got BT all the way from Hyderabad. Always good to see you here, BT. Thanks for tuning in. It's going to be a fantastic session, folks. All right. So keep the comments coming, and any questions you have about building a career in AML, any questions you have about this space in this industry, feel free to start dropping those questions in the comments. And of course, keep introducing yourself. Love to hear always about all of you folks tuning in. We got Anmol all the way from Ottawa, from the nation's capital. Good to see you here, Anmol. Thanks so much for tuning in. All right, folks. So before I bring out my guest, let me give you folks a brief introduction about Sanjay. So Sanjay is a risk and compliance consultant with niche expertise in the anti-money laundering domain for over 5 years, having worked on projects with several of the big 5 banks in Toronto, such as TD, Scotia, BMO, as well as HSBC. Now, Sanjay has also worked in other domains such as the brokerage side of banks as an IIORC licensed trader and on regulatory projects related to, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this, but Pipadia, I guess, as a business analyst. So maybe when I bring Sanjay out, he's going to school me on how to pronounce that. So my apologies for that. But hey, folks, make sure in the comments you give a warm welcome to my guest today. He's taken some time out of his own work schedule to join us here today and help us out and help direct us about this very, very, very hot industry. So Sanjay, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for your time. And it's great to have you here.
My pleasure, Dean. Thanks for having me as a guest. More than happy to share my insights here today.
Awesome, fantastic. So firstly, did I pronounce that correctly? Is it Pipadia, or how do you pronounce it? Pippada. Okay, my bad.
You're close.
I was close. So before we begin, I say this a lot. I mean, and this is why LinkedIn is one of my favorite platforms, because you and I, Sanjay, we've never met, but we've been in touch for a number of years now on LinkedIn. And this is why I think so many of you folks tuning in, like, this is another example as to why you need to build connections and keep in touch with people that you connect with and that you meet with on LinkedIn. And, that would have not been possible had Sanjay and I not kept in touch, right? So it's great that we're able to have this conversation. We got some shout outs here. We got Kechi, who says, thanks so much, Sanjay. Good to have you here, Kechi. We got Kamal all the way from India tuning in. We got Jennifer from Toronto. We got Anupam from New York. Wow, amazing show up here. And Kechi is from Mississauga as well. So good to have everyone here. So, let's again, keep the introductions coming, folks. And any questions you have about the AML space, feel free to drop those in the comments, and I'm going to have Sanjay respond to your questions when we get to the Q&A part. But getting right into it, Sanjay, I mean, for the people tuning in who, and most of the people tuning in probably are aware of the AML space, but for the benefit of those, Sanjay, who might not be aware of what this space is and what anti-money laundering is, can you let us know more about the space and what it is and what exactly this industry is?
Sure, absolutely. So maybe it's best I start off with like a AML one-on-one, right? So I'll talk about what AML is and the basic concept behind it, of what it is, because there's a lot of people watch TV shows like Breaking Bad or Ozark on Netflix. They may have some idea what is money laundering, and some of those aspects are real.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that aren't true, right? So I can kind of dive into that. So like the
Sure.
word says, anti-money laundering is the opposite of money laundering, which we're not going to talk about or teach on this segment. We'll talk about anti-money laundering, right? So basically what money laundering essentially it's the illegal process of making funds generated by any criminal activity appear to have come from a legitimate source, right?
Right.
Now these type of criminal activities come under a predicate offense. So crimes that basically exploit, take advantage of human beings, systems, resources to produce some sort of artificial earnings, right? So some examples could be things like drug trafficking, terrorist financing, fraud,
Right.
cyber crimes, tax evasion, bribery, and smuggling, right? And the word money laundering, it's said to have coined from Al Capone days.
Oh, no way. Wow.
When he
Okay.
used to launder money, he used to actually commingle his illicit funds with laundromats, and that's
Oh.
how that term coined, right? But if you look at the whole essence of it, right? Like you put things in a washing machine, right? It's dirty
Yeah,
clothes,
yeah.
and you tumble dry it, and then it comes out clean. So the
Yeah, yeah.
acronym kind of goes hand in hand, right? Which is what essentially a money launderer is trying to do.
Wow.
So when it comes to anti-money laundering, we're basically trying to prevent or detect that type of activity, right? Money laundering essentially is formed in 3 stages, right? There's 3 stages to it. So the first stage is called placement. So when a criminal wants to put money in the financial system, generally they'll place it by merely basically going to the bank and depositing funds. But if a criminal has a lot of money, they don't want to get the bank suspicious. So they'll deposit in such a way, smaller increments, for example, or they'll deposit funds at several different banks, right? Or foreign exchange, casino winnings. Those are ways that the money can enter the banking system.
Right.
Now, that's the most vulnerable part because a criminal basically wants to hide the money, right? So when they put the money in the banking system, the next stage they want to do is what's called layering. So layering, in a sense, is once the funds go into a banking system, they'll move the funds around between different accounts. Maybe they'll send it offshore. They'll put the funds into a trading account and start trading securities. Basically, they want to hide the audit trail of those illicit funds that have entered into the banking system.
Right.
And then the last stage is called integration, where once the money is being cleaned within the system, they can now take it out as legitimate money and buy real estate, investment ventures, art, or maybe even a Lamborghini.
Oh, wow. Okay, got you. So obviously, I mean, this is a pretty expansive area, right? And I would assume there's probably so many opportunities here. Now, before we did have some more shout outs. We got some shout outs here from Rocky, who says, "Hey, Sanjay." Same last name, I guess. Both
That's
of
my
you.
sister.
Oh, okay, awesome. So shout out to Rocky. Good to have you here, Rocky. We got Maureen in the house. We got someone from New Jersey, Neeraj from New Jersey, tuning in. Saurabh says, "Hi, Dean. This is Saurabh for India. Thank you for bringing in Sanjay. Looking forward to this exciting session. You're doing amazing work. Great to have you here, Saurabh. Appreciate that." We got Nawab. Nawab says, "Yes, Sanjay, I'm proud of you, my friend. Awesome. We got a supporter there, Sanjay." And we got BT, who says, "Now I get what money laundering meant." Awesome. Good to know that, BT. Okay, so I mean, in terms of yourself, Sanjay, how did you get into this career? Like, was this a conscious decision? Was it kind of by mistake, or what was how has your career journey been in this space, and how
Right.
do you get to where you are today?
I kind of actually fell into it by accident, I guess, or you could say right place, right time.
Okay.
So I started my career when I was at TD Bank. So I was a trader at TD Direct Investing, and I'd done my 1.5 years, and it was time to decide where I wanted to move on to within my career. Because generally after a 1.5 years, they say, okay, which department you want to go into. So at that time, I was exploring, maybe financial planning or a financial advisor. That'd be a logical next step.
Right.
What I found was a lot of my work colleagues were going into compliance, audit, and AML. And at that time, I had no clue what AML was. It was a foreign word to me. I was like, what the heck is AML? So I talked to my colleagues, and he said, AML, actually, it's really good. There's no sales targets. You're working back office. You're doing investigations. and looking at people's accounts. I said, wow, that sounds pretty cool. So basically, I'm going to be like Columbo or like Sherlock Holmes, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
essentially
exactly. Yeah.
what the job sounds like. So it got me intrigued, right? Because in banking, one of the fascinating things is there's so many diverse titles or areas you can go into, and you don't come to know those until you're actually, working within the bank. Then you get to know, right? So that was how I discovered the AML term and what it was. And what happened was in 2000, I'd interviewed actually with HSBC. Now, just for a bit of a history lesson, in 2012, HSBC got fined for $1.9 billion.
Billion with a B. That's with a B.
Yes.
Oh,
And the
wow.
reason why was they were charged with allowing Mexican and Colombian drug cartels to launder money through their banking system.
Wow.
So what happened was they got this fine, and they put on a program called the DPA. They had 5 years basically to get their affairs in order, so to speak.
Yeah.
So they had done mass hiring. So I was at the right place at the right time because they had just kind of ramped up that process in Canada. So when I went for my interview, I pretty much got the job right away because they
Wow.
were hiring anybody that had banking experience. So it was a very quick interview, 20 minutes. At the end, the hiring manager said, "Are you ready to start next week?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So it was probably the quickest start date that I've had, in general terms. So that's how I got started, and then the rest is history. HSBC, because it had to upgrade their policies, I was introduced to their global standards training, which set the framework for other banks, right? So
Wow. Yeah.
during when I started, AML wasn't as popular as it is today, or as well known, because the fine that HSBC incurred got the banks all kind of rattled. Like, okay, wow, there's these very high fines. We need to get our AML policies and procedures in order so we don't get fined. So
Mhm.
that's how the domino effect happened within the banking system, and how AML started to grow exponentially from there.
Interesting, interesting. Okay, now I had a quick kind of a side question there, Sanjay, because you mentioned that obviously at this point when you got into AML, like you had some banking industry, I guess, experience at that point. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would you say? I mean, obviously that must have been an asset. Now, for those viewers considering getting into this field, like, is that necessary? Like, do you need to come from some kind of a banking background or worked in banking? Like, is obviously it's an asset, but is that like a definite requirement?
I would say it definitely helps, because AML, essentially, majority of the work you're doing in AML is you're working within the banking products, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a good understanding or sense of different banking products, and I've worked in other departments like fraud or compliance or even legal, if you have some legal background, those all will help you, and those are transferable skills, because AML, essentially, a lot of the work you're doing is you're doing a lot of critical thinking,
Mm.
right? You have to make decisions based on the information you have to base your decision is can become limited. So you have to have that ability to do critical thinking, but definitely any understanding of banking products will definitely be a big plus.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. And we got a shout out here for you from Karan. Karan says, "Hey Sanjay, love the AML 101 intro. Awesome, good feedback there." We got Chibuke says, "Hey Sanjay, glad to be here." And I see that we have some questions coming in, folks. So I'm going to get to the questions shortly, but I'm going to move along with the conversation. So Sanjay, I mean, why is I mean, you've kind of alluded to this already, but why is AML a good space for someone who's, let's say, some of the viewers, they're considering, okay, I'm considering new industries, and they're kind of deciding on which industries they should maybe consider for their career, maybe next, or maybe currently they're in a transition or something. Why is AML a good space to be in? And the second part of my question is, what are the best steps in order for one to get into this industry?
Right. Well, Dean, last time I checked, criminals aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say COVID has expedited criminal activity, right? We're all
Right.
working from home. We're all working in this new COVID environment, and there's a lot of criminal activity happening, right? There's frauds, there's scams, so this space is going to continue, and it's going to continue to become more complex. It's a game of cat and mouse, right? So the
Mm.
criminals, they have their way of doing illicit activity, and then we find ways of countering that. So there's always going to be an opportunity for individuals to fight financial crime. So I don't see that ending anytime soon. And the AML field has really expanded in a big way. So it's not only related to just the banking sector. now fintechs are getting into this area, right? You can join a
Yeah.
fintech and be involved in AML. Cryptocurrencies, right? There's a lot of people are now getting into Bitcoin and whatnot. So there's criminal activity happening in those domains. And cybersecurity, right? As we work from home, there's
Yeah.
a lot of phishing and scams of that nature, financial crime. So it's a growing field. There's a lot of breadth and height to the field in general. So it's an exciting time, and there's a lot of opportunity continues to grow.
Okay, and I like how you. I mean, obviously, given the current situation with COVID, I'm glad you mentioned this. Right, I'm sure, as you, someone in this space, like, have you noticed like a significant increase in these type of criminal activities, like from the onset of the pandemic?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, now we're not able to go into a brick and mortar bank, right? So everything's
Yeah.
gone digital. So, criminals are using this as a way to facilitate their activity, right? Online, and people are at home, so they can get in touch with those individuals at a higher level, right? So I would
Yeah.
say definitely there's an uptick in crime, especially in the cyber and the cryptocurrency domains. Yeah, definitely.
Gotcha. Now, Sanjay, how do you advise people that want to get into this space? Like, what's your advice? Like, at least some general advice on how can you get into the AML space?
Right. So I was fortunate because I was the right place at the right time and I was trained, right? So
Yeah.
times have changed. Most companies, they won't be as willing to train someone with no experience. You will need some kind of experience or accreditation. So if someone's coming in brand new, I would definitely recommend getting some sort of certification. So there's two organizations that you can join and get certified. And one of them is called ACAMS, all right? So ACAMS is currently their self-proclaimed gold standard in money laundering. So you can join their association. You can become certified. I believe it's around $1,300 US. And then every year you pay about $300 to stay as a member. You can join the Toronto chapter. It's a global institution. So there's chapters all around the world, which is great. You can collaborate. From that, you'll be trained. They have webinars. They have a lot of resources. And once you become certified and have that on your resume, definitely recruiters will pay attention to you. Because when recruiters are looking through resumes, they're going to look for certain keywords or key accreditations. So ACAMS is definitely one I would suggest. Another one is Financial Crimes Associate, Accredited Financial Crimes Associate. So they're another accreditation. They cover a lot of different products and services across fraud and cybersecurity as well. Around the same price, around $1,200 or so, and you can also get accredited as well through them. So those are the two I would suggest. And then go online, seek a mentor. Get advice from somebody. Go on LinkedIn, have conversations with people who are in industry. Find out how they got in. What are some of the tips that they can give as well? So I really believe in networking and talking to different people as well within the AML industry. There's a lot of free content online, and like I said, there's a lot of webinars that are always going on, especially during COVID. That you'll find a lot of these online seminars and webinars. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll notice I've got 2 accreditations next to my name. So CCI, Certified Cryptocurrency Investigator. So as I mentioned earlier, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is an area where there's a lot of opportunity. So you can become certified as a certified cryptocurrency investigator and learn the intricacies of cryptocurrency and how financial crime is in that space. If you're brand new to cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, you can do what's called the CBP, Certified Bitcoin Professional, which is about $140. And that just gives you the fundamentals of what Bitcoin is, what blockchain is. Because again, if you want to differentiate yourself, you need to be up to date with what the current trends are. And these are some of the spaces and certifications that will help you.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like such an exciting field, right? I mean, just the way that you're describing it, and all these things. So, I mean, that's amazing. So, folks, feel free to keep the comments coming. Any questions you have for Sanjay, make sure you put it in the comments. I do see some questions. So, Nikechi, I see your question. I'm not ignoring you. I'm going to get to your question shortly, and I think I have a question from someone else. Now, Sanjay, like you've kind of mentioned that there's obviously so many different areas within AML. And obviously there's like so many different potential career opportunities and skill sets that are required. So can you touch on, like what are some of the different types of roles available in AML?
Right. So generally within AML, there's so many opportunities. So if you're starting off brand new, so you're just entering the field, generally you would start off as, say, a KYC analyst or a name screening analyst. So those type of roles, you don't generally need a lot of experience, just a willingness to learn.
Yeah.
And those type of roles, you'll help with the bank in onboarding new customers. You'll basically, when a customer gets onboarded, we need to do what's called a KYC, know your customer. So you'll do a lot of data entry. You'll basically look at risk of the client, the customer that's being onboarded. So that's a starting place to get into the AML field. Then from there, you would progress to become an AML analyst. So AML analyst is when you're actually doing the AML type work. You're doing investigations. You're basically looking at alerts or cases for the bank. So what happens is when there's any money laundering activity detected, the bank will create alerts or cases within the system. And then you as an individual, an analyst, you'll actually assess that case and look for any opportunities of money laundering and either escalate the case or close the case, right? So you'll assess the risk. So that's another role that you could go into. And as you progress within the AML analyst role, you would then become a senior AML analyst, where potentially you may be an advisor within your group, or maybe called upon to assess work that your colleagues are doing. As you grow as well into a leadership role, you can become a team lead. So as a team lead, AML team lead, you would have maybe 5 to 10 analysts that work with you, and you basically help them with their work. You give support and advice. And then as you grow, you have your senior manager, right? And then who kind of oversees the whole program, is responsible for the AML policies and program as well, right? So that's within AML. Also, when AML analysts are doing their work, they need their work to be assessed. So you can also what's called a quality assurance or QC analyst. A QC analyst is a person which oversees and looks over the work that the analysts are doing. So if you're a very attention detailed person, then that would be a good role that you can go into as well. And then outside of the AML, domain within banking, as I mentioned, you can go into things like cryptocurrency investigator, or if you come from a legal background, you could maybe write policies and procedures, regulatory type work, right? You can go into those type of areas. You could join a fintech. You could even, if you have a software development background, right? I know a lot of your viewers are in IT. You could join an AML organization, an organization that needs help with software development for their software applications, right? So opportunities as well for people with programming background or Python programming background, data analytics. If you have a good background in assessing data, because AML, you're looking at a lot of data. You need to sieve that data and look for trends and patterns. So if you have a good background as a data analyst, that's another area you could potentially get into as well. So you can be in different domains and kind of learn AML from a holistic and high level and incorporate that into your existing fields.
I mean, it's fantastic, Sanjay. I mean, my takeaway, so far from what you're saying is there's pretty much like someone from, whatever your background is, there's probably something where you can leverage wherever you're coming from and apply it to some domain within AML. I mean, from the sounds of it, it seems like there's so many opportunities in this space.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. And Saurabh, I do see your question, my friend. I'm going to get to your question shortly. All right. So anyone who has questions, feel free to put in the comments. We'll get into the Q&A shortly. So Sanjay, looking forward, right? What are some trends in AML that you can kind of foresee unfolding over the next few years, and also as the career opportunities evolve as well?
Right. So as we're seeing, there's a big uptick in machine learning, artificial intelligence, these type of opportunities. So I definitely see a movement into more technical skills within AML industry, right? Because as I mentioned, criminals are becoming that much smarter. They're using a lot more complex technologies. So we also need to adapt as well along with that. So there's a lot of opportunity to use machine learning and incorporate those within the AML platform.
Yeah.
So I see that, grow. If you have a technical background, there's definitely an opportunity. Like I mentioned as well, cybersecurity. If you have some knowledge in cybersecurity, or I would suggest learning some aspects of that as well. There's going to be some opportunity there. And then, of course, banking is changing fundamentally, right? There's a lot of fintech companies, there's a lot of disruptive companies that are coming into the marketplace. and they provide different products. So if you can also join a fintech and involve yourself in policies and anti-money laundering, there's opportunities there as well.
Amazing, amazing, and again, folks, my main takeaway is that, I mean, this is an area that has like so many opportunities. That's what I'm kind of getting so far. Now, Sanjay, I mean, you've already shared some tips on, you know, some success tips for people in you know, building their career in the space, but any other, you know, success tips you can share for someone, like, let's say there's a member of the audience that, like, okay, you know, I want to get in this space, I want to do well in this space. What are your success tips that you share that have worked well for you that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, so definitely, you know, some soft skills are definitely going to be there. So you want to be someone that's a collaborator, right? Good communication, because the work of AML, you're not a siloed individual which is working on your own. You're generally working collective as a team. So you want to definitely build upon those skill sets of being a strong communicator, being a critical thinker, right? When you're doing AML cases or writing policies, it's very important that you have a good command of English. So you have to be able to articulate your words very concise. When you're sending emails between other colleagues or managers or writing up cases, you need to be able to articulate, just like how, you know, a case goes to court, right? You have a lawyer, they can write very concise, clear English. I would say those are very good skill sets to have. And also, as I mentioned, you know, reaching out to different people online within LinkedIn and just kind of getting the ball rolling, getting communication going, learning some banking products, getting yourself familiar with the different products and services. You know, you can go on banking websites and look at different products and services just so you understand the intricacies of how they work. So that would be a good starting place and some tips that I can definitely say.
Awesome. Great tips there. Now, Sanjay, in terms of, you know, let's say we're at the interview stage now, right? Where, like, you know, the viewers they're applying for these roles. They've taken your tips and advice. They're at the interview. What are some of your interview tips for, you know, the AML interviews?
So you know, when a hiring manager interviews, they're going to look at, you know, they don't necessarily have to have a lot of background. You know, like if you're joining in the field, they want to look for your communication skills, how articulate you are, how you can. They're going to generally, what happens in an interview scenario, they'll give you cases to solve. They'll give you a few scenarios, and they may not necessarily look for the, you know, don't necessarily look for the right answer. They're going to look at your thinking process. What is your thinking process? How did you come to certain conclusions, right? Because as I mentioned, in the work of AML, you're working with limited information in many cases. So a hiring manager wants to see how well you can come to conclusions, how well you can articulate your thoughts, and how you can use information that's given and draw logical, factual conclusions, right? So these are some of the highlights you definitely want to be able to portray in your interview. And also, you want to also show how your existing skills or existing experience can be transferable skills to an AML role, right? So those are things I would suggest you want to portray in your interview.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned, Sanjay, about the, you know, leveraging your existing transferable skills. I think, you know, many people and this goes to any field pretty much. People think that, okay, if I'm coming from a different field, you know, none of that experience counts. But what you're saying is, hey, no, like, you got to look into what transferable skills you have and use that as leverage and explain to the hiring manager how this is very, very much transferable for whatever space in AML you're trying to get into. Right. Awesome. So Sanjay, as we kind of wrap up, you know, the Q and you know, my questions for you. I know that you provide AML training services to people. So can you let the viewers know more about your AML training services, and for those viewers who might want to explore that a bit further, how you can help them?
Sure, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I'm a risk and compliance consultant. So I do help individuals who want to get into this space. So I help individuals in three different levels, right? So if an individual wants to get into the AML industry and they don't have any experience, any background, I can help somebody get into the industry in terms of helping them with their resume, you know, highlight some of the transferable skills, cover letter. We can do role playing with interview scenarios. So I'll actually walk them through what are some of the common questions they will encounter during an interview process. Some of the cases that they may get asked to do, I can go through some of those. Also, I help individuals which are already in the AML industry. Maybe they're in the industry 1 or 2 years, and they want to take their career to the next level. They want to explore other areas like cybersecurity, or maybe they want to become a cryptocurrency investigator. So I can help them with those areas. And the third individual I can help is someone which is in a completely different domain, such as software development, and they may want to work for a fintech and work within the software development for an AML component, or maybe they're a salesperson and they want to sell AML software solutions, because there are companies which sell AML software solutions to banks and such. So maybe they want to learn about AML in that regard. So these are the different areas which I teach, and simply they can go to my LinkedIn page. They can click on Digital Fountain Consulting, and from there there's my email address, sanjay@digitalfountain.ca. They can reach me there, or they can book a discovery call with me, and then we can have a discussion, and then I can cater my coaching according to their needs.
Awesome, fantastic. So, folks, feel free to reach out to Sanjay, and Sanjay, you feel free to share your LinkedIn profile link maybe in the private chat, and I'll share that in the comments for anyone who wants to connect with you, or who want more information about that. But that's awesome. You're able to help people looking to get into this space. And which brings me to Sanjay. Like, would LinkedIn be the best place for people to connect with you, or what's the best way for people who want to further connect with you, follow you, and maybe have a further discussion with you? Would it primarily be LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. That'll be the best place to reach me. I have about 4,700 connections, and it's growing on a monthly basis. So awesome. I have a lot of my connections on LinkedIn are primarily in the AML industry, cybersecurity, and fintech. So I have a lot of reach in these different domains. So definitely, when people come to me and want help, I can connect them with recruiters and really help them accelerate their career and get in.
Awesome, fantastic. Sanjay, you shared so much great information. Really appreciate that. So I guess let's get into the questions from the viewers, if you don't mind. And in the meantime, I will also share your LinkedIn profile link in the comments as well. So let's see here. We got a question here from someone who says, what about if you have a financial background? I guess they're asking, what if you come from like a financial background, if you can apply that to an AML space? I would assume yes. I think you kind of already touched on this, Sanjay, but any thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you have a banking background or financial background, that's definitely always going to be a plus, because you'll be familiar with the products, you'll know some of the services, so it'll be a much easier transition than say someone which has come from a different industry and have to kind of learn the culture and products of finance.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. So hope that helps to whoever asked that question. We got a question here from Saurabh. So Saurabh says, would like to seek advice on how to keep up with so much information available in the AML space. Any particular suggestions on resources, and how should someone start with so many areas to explore?
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming because AML is really growing in such an explosive way. So I mentioned earlier, the two associations I would definitely recommend is the ACAMS and Association of Financial Crime Specialists. Those are the two key areas where you can find a ton of resources. They have webinars. Actually, they had one about 2 weeks ago where they'll invite different guest speakers and talk about different topics, and a lot of free content to get up to speed with the trends that are happening in the AML space. So definitely those two I'd suggest join and become certified.
Awesome, fantastic. So Saurabh, hope that that helps, and hope that answers your question. So we got. Let me go on to the next question here. So we got. Some feedback from Nkechi. Nkechi says, Sanjay, thank you so much for the information. Awesome. We got a question here from Chibuke. Apologies if I pronounce your name incorrectly, Chibuke. To clarify, Sanjay, if I get certified with ACAMS and I want to get into crypto, does that mean I have to also get CCI?
Great question, actually. ACAMS is the gold standard. So if you have that on your resume, it'll definitely help you get into a AML field. Then from there, if you want to become specialized within crypto, it doesn't hurt to get certified in something such as a CCI. It'll definitely differentiate you. There's been an explosion of individuals who want to get into the AML space. So you definitely want to stand out as someone which is knowledgeable and passionate about those niche areas. So definitely, if you want to target cryptocurrency and blockchain domains, then yeah, CCI is definitely a great place to go to get certified. And as I mentioned, the CBP, Certified Bitcoin Professional, that's another one you can also do. Yeah, I can touch base with you as well if you want more information as well.
Awesome, awesome. So Chibuke, hope that helps, and yeah, feel free to connect with Sanjay directly. So folks, I shared the link for Sanjay's LinkedIn profile in the comments. So those of you who want to connect and follow Sanjay, definitely feel free to do so. So next question here, we got a question from Nikechi. What soft skills do you need to succeed in this space? Sanjay, I think you kind of already answered this, but maybe if you want to reiterate that.
Sure. So soft skills, definitely communication is key. You're working in groups, right? Within AML, you're bouncing off ideas, right? So you work in collective. So you definitely will be a good communicator, strong command of the English language in written form, critical thinker, right? And someone that's an avid learner. You're gonna be, when you join AML as a career, you're gonna be bombarded with a lot of new information. So you have to be someone that's able to learn information, learn quickly. And you do a fairly vast number of tasks, right, within the AML work. So you want to be good at multitasking as well.
Yeah.
And one key thing would be attention to detail. You have to have a very strong attention to detail because you're dealing in numbers, right? You're dealing in facts. You're dealing in a lot of intricacies that are very, very important because AML work, what happens is a lot of our work, it gets sent to an organization called FinTrack, where any type of money laundering activity, we're obligated to file what's called STRs, right? Suspicious transaction reports. And those reports then get assessed and audited and potentially could go to enforcement, right? If you want to prosecute somebody. So those type of cases they need to be very high quality. So attention to detail, communication, those are very important aspects to have.
Okay, awesome. So Nikechi, hope that helps. So I had a question for you as well, Sanjay, which I just thought about right now. Some of the folks here, I mean, who are interested in the AML space, they're probably going to be approaching the big banks, right? So, for these AML roles. Now, obviously, I would assume that the banks probably get like hundreds, if not thousands, of applications competing for these AML roles. Any general advice on how one can, stand out, or any steps they can take to get a chance of getting the interview?
Right. So generally with the AML, that's just a good question you asked. So what you'll find is that the banks will generally hire two ways. They'll hire you as a contractor, or they'll hire you full time. Usually what will happen is they'll onboard you as a contractor, usually 6 months, 12 months, because a lot of the projects within the AML space are timelined, right? So they'll need individuals to be onboarded to do a piece of work for a limited period of time. So you can come in generally through a recruitment agency, or sometimes the banks will have postings directly on their webpage, right? Some of the ways you can stand out, as I mentioned, is highlight on your resume those transferable skills. How can you showcase that your existing skill set can be transferred into an AML role? And even if you haven't completed some of these certifications, you could always enroll and add that, hey, I'm in the process of getting my ACAMs, I'm enrolled in CCI. Write about some of the different volunteer work or some of the different ways you've become involved in the AML industry. Maybe you've joined some webinars or you're part of an affiliation. So for example, ACAMS, you don't necessarily have to have done the exam to be a member. So you can be a ACAMS member and take advantage of the free content that's available on the website. So that shows a clear interest. And then also cover letter is also very valuable, because if you lack any hard skill sets or experience, you can showcase your desire and your skill sets within a cover letter, how you can transfer those into a role. Those are very powerful things you can use.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Sanjay. I'm pretty sure that the viewers applying to the big banks were very, very competitive. So I think that would be very helpful. So we got a question here from Maharshi. So Maharshi, shout out to Maharshi. Good to see you, Maharshi. Maharshi says, I work in telecommunications sector, and recently there have been many fraudulent activities in our industry. They send random links to customers stating that they have received refunds for XYZ amounts. Do you think AML is related with this kind of fraud? So I guess he's asking, is this considered like AML?
Yeah, you definitely could, because as I mentioned, right, money laundering is a predicate offense. Anything like fraud, cybersecurity, any way you're trying to cover the proceeds of crime or kind of do any kind of fraudulent activity. So it does fall under the domain. So you could definitely use that experience. If you've worked with those type of cases and you prevented fraud, that would definitely be a case for you being able to jump into more AML specific roles at the bank. So yeah, I would definitely use that as some experience on your resume.
Awesome. So Maharshi, hope that helps. And let's see, we got a question here from Rajesh. So Rajesh says, I'm from an IT background. Describe some areas in AML where I can make my career start. So Sanjay, I know you probably, I think you already covered this, but any additional thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I mean, Rajesh, you come from an IT background, right? So as I mentioned, if as a software developer or someone which knows Python, or even as I alluded to earlier, machine learning or artificial intelligence, these are some main areas which are the driving force for AML in the future and coming years. So you can take that experience you have in software development or IT, and I could help you with that and learn about AML, or like I said, I mentioned some of these different areas like ACAMs. You can learn about AML industry. So that could be a starting point for your conversation in building some of these software solutions that the banks and fintechs are using within the AML space.
Awesome. So Rajesh, hope that helps. And yeah, as a kind of a side note, I can definitely see software development being a very hot area within this space. I mean, obviously, to deal with these fraudulent activities taking place. So Rajesh, hope that helps. We got a question here from Chibuke. Chibuke says, what timelines can you suggest to prepare for the ACAMS certification?
Well, it really depends on you how fast a learner you are. I mean, actually, ideally now is a perfect time to do certifications because we're in COVID, we're stuck at home, we got nowhere to go, right? We can't meet friends and family. So you have all the time in the world now to focus. So generally, I would say it depends on you, but I would say a time frame would be within about 3 to 6 months. I would say very easily. I would lean more towards 3 months. You know, if you're spending a couple hours every day and you're a fast learner, yeah, you could easily complete within 3 to 6 months.
Awesome. Thanks, Sanjay. I hope that helps, Chibuke. Nikechi says just connected with him on LinkedIn. Awesome. So you got a +1 on LinkedIn probably there. We got a thank you. Someone says thank you. And then we got, Chibuke says thank you, Sanjay. Saurabh says thank you for answering my query. That was very helpful. Awesome. Chibuke also sent you a LinkedIn connection request. Rocky says valuable info, Sanjay. We got so Kostov says, I guess Kostov has a question. Will certifications help in the AML space? If so, can you recommend some? So Kostov, I mean, so Sanjay already recommended some certifications. So maybe you joined in late, so you can watch the replay. But Sanjay, if you, I mean, you're most welcome to reiterate those certifications or anything additional here.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the two main certifications you want to go for, you could actually take both because they cover different areas, or you could take one, right? ACAMS is a gold standard, so ACAMS would be the one you could do, or the Association of Accredited Financial Crime Specialists would be the other one I would suggest.
Awesome. Hope that helps, Kostov. And we have another question here from Suraj Kumar. So shout out to Suraj Kumar. Suraj Kumar says, is it absolutely necessary to pursue certifications like ACAMS or CCI to scale up within the AML compliance space, or is it just good to have on your resume?
Well, if you're going into an area of compliance, generally risk and compliance, the ACAMS will definitely help if you're going into the areas because it shows your interest and familiarity with trends within money laundering, right? If you want to get into the AML space specifically, then yes, ACAMS is the certification to go for. It's the gold standard, industry gold standard. It's what recruiters will look for when they're sifting through resumes, and it is what hiring managers will look for when they hire somebody. CCI, I would say, is more so if you want to get into the AML space on the crypto front. If you just want to learn cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and blockchain, there's other courses, generalist courses you can take. I know the Khan Academy has a couple of good courses, which is free content on there as well.
Awesome. So hope that helps, Suraj Kumar. We got, so Maharshi says, yes, certainly. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Chibuke says, thank you, Sanjay. Awesome. Maureen says, thank you, Sanjay, as well. We got a question here from Lakshmi. So Lakshmi said, I moved to the UK recently as I don't have UK work experience, but I did MBA and have 3 years Indian experience in KYC, CDD, AML. I recently cleared ACAMS too. Still finding it difficult to land a job. Thank you in advance. So I know this is a different country. I guess Lakshmi's in the UK, Sanjay, but any general advice to help her in her job search?
Well, the great thing I've noticed, Lakshmi, is that you've worked in KYC, CDD, right? So that's great. You have the experience within AML industry. and having completed your ACAMs, that's great. So you're already well on your way. You have a lot of the certifications and experience to get into the AML industry. It's just a matter of pursuing, right? We all go through ups and downs within the job search. I've gone through some myself, right? COVID has affected everybody in some way or form. So I would just say be persistent, be optimistic, continue doing what you're doing, reach out to companies, send emails to hiring managers, find out which industries or companies you want to work for, and find out who are the hiring managers or decision makers, and start up a conversation. Talk about your experience and how your experience can be leveraged and help that individual or their team. Find out what their pain points are. Those are some starting places I would suggest.
Awesome. So Lakshmi, hope that helps. Some great advice there from Sanjay. And we got a question from Hussein. Hussein says, "Hi Sanjay, can you give some insight on a career in sanctions within AML? How would we work towards it?"
Okay, great question, Zain. So sanctions is another area of AML that I didn't really touch about earlier, but sanctions, basically when we have different countries that we trade with, there's some high-risk countries, right? Like North Korea, some countries in Africa, or some Middle Eastern countries. So those are sanctioned countries where trade is limited, right? Due to some political or criminal activity. So there are some areas that you can go into. I know ACAMS has a specific certifications that highlights sanctions, actually. So you can go on ACAMS website and you can be certified within a niche area of sanctions. That would be a starting place I would suggest. I think Accredited Association of Financial Specialists has also an area on sanctions, so maybe look into that. Likewise, you can connect on people on LinkedIn who are working within sanctions department, and maybe find out some of those different job opportunities and career development within that niche area of sanctions.
Awesome. So Hussein, hope that helps. And we got some feedback here. Celia says, "Great information, Sanjay. Thank you. Good to hear you're enjoying the show today, Celia." Hey, folks, make sure you hit like and make sure you thank Sanjay for his time. He's sharing such great information with us, within the hour so far. Sanjay, hopefully you're okay with me. I think we have like one or two more questions, or one.
Sure.
More.
Happy to answer them.
Awesome. So we got Kostov here. I guess Kostov is saying, "Thanks for the early information about certifications. From an IT standpoint, how does machine learning stack up in terms of AML problem solving? Also, which specializations?" So I know you kind of touched on machine learning, I believe, Sanjay. Any additional thoughts on this from an IT standpoint?
Great question there, Kota.
Yeah,
So, as I mentioned earlier, within the banking system, the banks look at transactions, they look for patterns and trends to uncover, is there any criminal activity? So that's where the machine learning aspect comes in, because with machine learning, the software can be tuned to look for certain thresholds, certain transaction, certain type of activity which may suggest money laundering or criminal activity is happening. So if you can come in as someone which can tune these intricacies, right, these software solutions, and help the bank become more efficient in finding these opportunities to uncover criminal activity, that's where you can showcase your ability and use machine learning and artificial intelligence in that context. So that's how it portrays to the AML industry, right? Using machine learning with these software solutions. And also even within onboarding, when a customer is onboarded, a lot of machine learning is used to categorize customers and silo them in terms of their risk. How risky is this customer on a scale? So software definitely plays a big part in how the banks and financial institutions assess risk of customers and entities and transactions in general.
Awesome. So Kostov, hope that helps. And Suraj Kumar says, "Thanks for the recommendation. I'll check out the courses on Khan Academy. Super informative, Sanjay." Lakshmi says, "Thank you, Sanjay." And then Saurabh says, "CGSS, Global Sanctions Specialist Certificate."
There you go.
Yeah, that's right. So looks like that's all the questions. So Sanjay, thank you so much. I mean, you shared 45 minutes, almost an hour with us. You shared so much great information. And you really took the time to respond to the viewers' questions. So folks, make sure you thank Sanjay in the comments. And it was a pleasure having you, Sanjay. Definitely, would love to have you back in the future at some point so we can chat more about AML. And folks, for those of you looking to connect with Sanjay, look him up. I shared the link on the comments. Feel free to connect with Sanjay on LinkedIn for more information on how he can help you with your AML journey, as well as any questions you might have about the AML space. So again, thanks everyone for tuning in. Everyone have a fantastic week. Sanjay, again, thanks so much. It was wonderful having you on the show.
My pleasure, Dean. My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm happy that I was able to talk about AML with your viewers today. So yeah, please do connect with me, and we can take it from there.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Sanjay. Have a wonderful day. And folks, everyone else have a wonderful week ahead, or what's remaining left of the week. All right. Take care, everyone.